Hey guys, it's 80's Everything here, and today I have a special guest on my YouTube channel. His name is Max Bluemel, and I did an 80's interview with him, and just a disclaimer, I own no rights to the background music in the video, I think that's all I have to say. Also, I got 195 subscribers. Woohoo! 5 more to 200. Anyway, enjoy the video, guys. So, question number 1 is, how was your life in the 1980s?
How was my life in the 1980s? Good question. For me, Mr. Bluemel life in the 80s was pretty enjoyable. At that time, I was, 9, 10 when the 80s started. So I had a good perspective as a younger person in the 80s and enjoyed all that the 80s had to bring for a kid like me.
Awesome. Now, number 2, favorite 80s movie, your favorite one.
Favorite 80s movie? Wow, there's so many good ones. I'm gonna go with Big Trouble in Little China, starring Kurt Russell. That came out in 1986, and it's a good mix of action, kung fu, and then fantasy. It's just a good blend of it, and it's a John Carpenter movie, so check it out if you haven't seen it.
Awesome. Question number 3, favorite TV show.
Oh, in the 80s, I had to watch TV with my parents, so it was whatever they liked. They had the double feature. It was Love Boat and Fantasy Island, so that was a good 2 solid hours of watching TV with my family that, quite frankly, I didn't like those shows, but it was something that brought the family together around the TV, and I liked it.
Awesome. Question number 4, favorite band.
Oh, from the 80s, that would be Rush. So
I love Rush too.
Thank you. They started in 1971, and then I got into them during the 80s. I had a couple friends that introduced me to the band, and I really liked their music, and that became kind of just like a watershed moment for me. I found the band that I liked, I gravitated towards their music, and then I listened to them for about 30 years.
Wow. Question number 6. Do you have question number 6. So do you have any awesome moments, like any awesome / memorable moments about the 1980s?
Ooh, a lot of dirt bikes. So again, there's no internet, there's no personal devices, so you have to kind of create your fun on your own. So for my friends and I who lived out in the country, it was dirt bikes. We make jumps, ramps, you name it, we would jump over it. And then we would mix that in with some Dungeons and Dragons. So our parents wouldn't see us for a stretch of like 6 hours because we were out either riding bikes or rolling dice.
Wow. Question number 7 is, if you could go back to the 1980s for 1 month, what would you do more of?
Wow, that's a good question. If I go back and hang for 1 month, I'd definitely hang out with my family again, because that was kind of like the golden age for our family where everyone got along. My brother was a couple years younger than me, so we played together a lot. And just to try to be a better brother and son, you know? Everyone looks back in their life and says, like, I could have done this or I should have done that. That would be a moment for me. I'd go back and just hang out with family.
Awesome. Question number 8. Do you have any regrets about this era?
Ooh, the 80s, I was a pyromaniac. So I used to light everything on fire, including myself.
What?
Yeah, I got burned playing with fire, you know, and that was one of the biggest things my parents told me was to not do that. And they told me repeatedly because I like to play with fire. So that's an expression that has a lot of weight to me, is if you play with fire, you get burned, literally, but also figuratively, that I have to know my limits, and I have to recognize the limits that society has out there for me and follow them, otherwise bad things happen.
Wow. Question 10. Did you go to any concerts or special events during that time?
In the 80s. I was young, so I was lucky enough to have parents that liked to see live music. So we would go to see this band called Rocket 88, and they would play all 50s style music. And that's what my dad liked moving to America. That was one thing he gravitated towards, was the music. And that had a big influence on me. His record collection and just going to those shows kind of made me realize I really like live music. And then late 80s and early 90s, that's when I started to go to concerts with my friends. So I'm glad my family introduced me to live music.
Awesome. Question number 11. Do you have a really funny memory you wish to share while growing up in the 1980s?
Funny memory? I don't know. I was just a goofy looking kid in the 80s. I was tall, which was unusual at that time because all my friends, were a little bit late on the curve. So I was tall for my age. I was gangly. That's probably a good adjective. Gweepy. I've heard gweepy, where I couldn't sync my body to my brain. It was an awkward time for me. And then eventually I kind of grew into my eventual shape that you see today, right? As soon as I hit 6'2", that was about freshman year in high school. That was 1986. That's where I felt more comfortable, and I just got better coordination and just felt, okay, like I'm done being goofy or gweepy. This is me now.
Awesome. Question number 12. Your favorite video game and what console you played it on?
Oh, the 80s is all about the Atari. So like 70s, about 76, my parents got us the first Atari, the 2600 that came out. And they probably regret that to this day, because that, again, like you find things in life that you make your own. Like video games was that for me, because we lived out in the country. There wasn't a lot of people. So that was good time when I had downtime, because my friend was so far away. I could just sit down and play some video games, and that gave me some escapism that I needed.
Awesome. So, did you have a favorite video game?
Atari 2600, the classics were Outlaw. You can check that one out. State-of-the-art graphics for 1981, I think. Combat was a classic on the 2600. And then they started getting licensing, so Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, eventually those things were ported over to the Atari. But when I look back at those games that I used to play, compare the games that I play now, it's night and day. It's really different. But I'm glad that I had the roots in the 80s for video games to make a bridge to the 21st century where we're at right now. And I get to play even more.
That is so awesome. Well, thank you so much for participating in this interview.
All right.
And guys, thank you so much for watching this YouTube video. And see you later. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks.